Hey guys, Tony here, and today we have a really special video where I've invited my good buddy Matt over from the United States in Atlanta, Georgia to share his home theater build journey. Matt has had a home theater tour. Over the last 3 years, we've done 3 room tours of his room, and in his latest one, it just really took off and it's got over 470,000 views, which is absolutely incredible. And the response from the community has been really positive. And so what we thought we'd do is we'd get Matt in on a video and we'd ask him some questions so he can share his build journey and show the things that went into making the room what it is today. So Matt, welcome to the video.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for being on the video. And yeah, we've had a kind of a unique friendship over the last 3 years where we haven't actually met in person, but we chat almost every day over the last 3 years. You've been a great supporter of me and my channel, and I really appreciate it. So thanks for taking the time today to go through your build journey with us.
Man, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be invited to chat with you a little bit more. Of course, because we're good friends and you got a badass YouTube channel. Hopefully people get to see a little bit of our relationship we've built over the last couple of years as well. We tend to get along quite well, both personally and through this hobby, so have fun. I think it's going to be a good time chatting with you here. So
let's get straight into the questions. And the one that I like to start with is, how did you get into home theater?
Well, not a super exciting story necessarily, but I think it's how a lot of us actually got into the hobby is. I picked it up from my dad. So my dad brought home some Klipsch speakers back when I was probably in elementary school, middle school. Kind of got fascinated with them from there. Told myself when I wasn't a grown-up and I could actually afford something, I wanted to build my own setup. And here we are sitting in a pretty neat home theater here many years later. So just kind of picked it up, kind of learned about the hobby, and here we are, like I said. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen your whole build journey evolve. Including the photos from your very first home theater all the way up to what you have now.
The old brown room, the brown special, man. Oof.
Hey, it did the job, right? When the lights are off, that's all that matters.
There you go. Yeah. It's not ugly if the lights are out. Yeah, sure.
What made you convert your media room to a dedicated home theater?
Quest for perfection. I think we'll touch base a couple times on that, I'm guessing. But as many of us get the upgrade bugs, we always want to get the most out of a room as possible. So there was nothing ever wrong with the media room. Sounded awesome. Actually, when we bought the house, the previous owners did a great job kind of building out the room. Drywall was already up. It was great. But I can never do proper speaker placement. I can never pressurize the room. And I can never light control the room. Those are the big issues. So wanted to feel that bass when it kicked real hard. And I wanted to be able to watch movies during the day. Until I built the rear wall behind me and actually make it into a home theater. Didn't have that as an option, so it was basically 8 or 9 o'clock every night was the earliest I could get down here. So really just wanted to strive to actually have something I could call a dedicated home theater, have friends over, have my wife down here. Hopefully my little dog Chip makes an appearance, but he sits down here and enjoys with me as well. So really wanted to make it into a real experience instead of just a standalone media room.
Yeah, I think that's the case with most people. The difference between a casual space and an actual dedicated home theater, which yours is. Which you mentioned your quest for perfection. So you decided to close the opening at the back. Why don't you explain that process? Because I think a lot of people have either open rooms or odd-shaped rooms that they want to try to get into an optimal sort of layout and position.
Yep, so so I've gone through several iterations of this room. So I break it down into basically 2 to 3 renovations overall. So 1.0 was the media room that we had. 2.0 was actually when I got some AV upgrades. And then kind of 3.0 where we are currently is actually making it into the dedicated room, building the rear wall. Mm-hmm. That had been something I'd want to do for many years. So it started off on Discord. So started mulling around the idea. How do I actually enclose the room? And you guys can kind of see the wall. There's a door behind me. That's how I enter the room from the rear. That was a wide open space, went all the way to the rear wall and the restroom and the outside wall behind me. So I really wanted to be able to enclose this room. So started chatting with people on Discord, started getting ideas what's possible. And then actually you were a big inspiration for that because you were actually able to work my room into SketchUp. And I can actually finally visualize what I was looking for. And you can kind of get an idea what you're doing when you're walking around your room, but until you can actually see it, manipulate it in 3D, it makes a big, huge difference. That's where it started. That's why I wanted to do it. And again, optimal speaker placement now is possible. I can get all my acoustic panels up. Just really wanted to actually, and also part of that was I could actually get rid of that ugly rear row that I had that was haunting me for many years. So I can actually walk into my room now directly straight without having to go around and duck under my projector. That was another big perk of actually adding the wall. Not the reason why I added it, but it was a nice thing to get rid of during the process. So
as you mentioned, there was a couple of iterations from the media room to home theater 1.0, and now we have 2.0. I think from my perspective, 1.0 was a lot of gear changes. So why don't you discuss some of the AV choices that you've made over the last, say, 2 to 3 years?
Biggest changes I wanted to accomplish as part of actually enclosing the room was getting a proper projector. So I wanted a 4K projector. I wanted to actually feel the bass. That was one of my biggest goals, as many of us are. I think a lot of us are bass heads in this home theater. Probably to a fault, and probably it's way too loud, but I enjoy it. So one of the biggest things I spent some money on was getting my subwoofers. So right now I have 4 subwoofers in the room. So I have 2 big boys up front. They're both Power Sound Audio 18-inch subwoofers. In the back, I actually have my original PB2000, the SVS PB2000s that I purchased back when I bought the home in 2016.
Yep.
The first upgrades I did on my room, the very first thing I bought upgrade was those subwoofers. So it's cool to actually still have them in use, and they're still cranking out plenty of sound. They're still doing a great job. So those are the big things I wanted to really hit on when I did AV upgrades. Of course, as part of that, then you start going down the spiral of upgrades here. I had to upgrade my audio-visual receiver. I wanted to do Atmos, of course, so I ended up having to purchase some additional speakers, or replace some speakers that I had. Wanted to get Atmos in my room, so I had to buy some Atmos height speakers. I ended up buying some additional speakers. I replaced some that I had that weren't optimal for the room previously. Those are the major upgrades that I've put in for the current iteration of the room. Since we did our last filming, about a year ago, actually, is the time of this interview, I think I've upgraded my projector twice now, actually, which we'll probably talk about here a little bit more when we chat about budget for the rooms.
Sure.
And I'll go into that a little bit, but that was the last piece of the puzzle that I had not done when we did our last home theater tour. That was kind of the missing piece, and that's made a huge difference in the room as well.
Yeah, because you went from a Sony 1080p projector to the Epson LS12000.
Yep. And that was a great projector for many, many years. It served very well, just wasn't doing what I wanted at that point, you know? We got to do some upgrades sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this hobby's all about upgrades, isn't it? To some extent. Always pushing for that next thing. And then you...
That's why we're all broke.
Hey, that's totally fine, as long as you have a good room. But then, obviously, now you've gone to the JVC MP5. I think there's a little bit of peer pressure from quite a few people on that one.
A little, man. Holy cow. Friendly peer pressure, though, and it was totally worth it. Everybody was very patient with me on the Discord server, as well as I was asking questions, and because I like to ask many questions, as my wife will tell you, and probably the people in Discord. So
it's all good. You want to understand.
Told me to kind of shut up and enjoy it.
Yeah.
At a certain point. So
totally. You want to understand what you're getting into. So why not ask the people that actually own the gear? You have direct line into them. As you said, like, you've upgraded pretty much everything. One of the things I wanted to ask you was about your speakers. Now you have the Klipsch DUAL THX series of speakers. And you've managed to maintain that throughout the whole home theater, including the sides, the rears, and also the overheads. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your Klipsch THX in-walls? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier on, so my first speakers that I really ever interacted with and fell in love with was the speakers that my dad bought. He got them from a pawn store. He bought whatever the pair model of Klipsch was. So the first thing I wanted to do, actually, I should side note, my first home I bought, I bought the 4-letter word we don't talk about in home theater, Bose. So I had a speaker set up in a box, but it served its point, right? But I knew when I actually set up everything here, I wanted to go with Klipsch. No question about it. I always told myself when I was a grown-up and I had a big boy job, I wanted the Klipsch THX Ultras. At the time, I didn't realize I was looking at the floor standing speakers, not the in-wall variant, whatever that model number is. But it became very obvious here in this room, in-walls were going to work a lot better. So from the time I put these suckers in, they have blown me away. I've thrown them a lot of very, very loud audio content, and they keep up whereas my ears don't at that point. As an example, reference level is terrible in my opinion at this point. Now that I've set up my room properly, it's just way too loud.
Yeah.
And the speakers, but again, the speakers keep up beautifully. There's no issues with them. Part of the journey, which I didn't realize, is doing research. I should have done some more, kind of slowed down with the process, taking time to figure out what was right with my room. So my LCRs that I put up front, those are all the Klipsch THX 8000Ls, THX Ultra 2 8000Ls. And I think actually I took a screenshot. I think the way we met is I took a screenshot when I painted my room and just some random little picture. Hey man, I like those speakers. They look pretty cool.
Yep,
And
that's
that was
where it all
back in
started.
2020. Yeah. Here we are now, talking to each other on YouTube. Pretty wild.
Yep.
But, yeah, so I bought those for my LCR. I figured, hey, those are going to be awesome. They had some different speakers. I just wanted the big 8-inch woofers up front. Thought they looked cool. The issue that I made was when I bought my my sides, is I ended up buying bipole speakers.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal. I should have just got another 8000L for the sides. And I'm still using those at this point. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just not ideal, right?
It's just Atmos recommendation is not to use bipole or dipole speakers, but of course they still work. You can still use them.
Yeah, like I said, they're still in use now. So, and then I also made a mistake. So when I ended up purchasing some for the rear of the room, back before my wall was up, actually, so well, you can't really tell here, but back where these acoustic panels are up, kind of back here, is kind of where I had to throw my rear surrounds previously, which was not optimal because they're firing out, nothing towards my seating position at all. Kind of sounded like crap. Also bought 5002S instead of L of those, which is, again, it was a bipole speaker instead of the current one I have now, which is the 5002S, I believe, is the model number.
Yep.
There'll probably be an annotation here in this video correcting the model number.
It's all good.
But so I used those for my rear surrounds for a while because, again, I couldn't really stick rear surrounds on the sidewalls. It just didn't sound right. So overall, I guess I would just say Klipsch has been a big part of everything I've done speakers. All my computer speakers growing up were Klipsch speakers. Bought all those until they stopped making them. They phased them out. My home theater now is Klipsch, so it sounds like a particular brand that you happen to love. It's not quite the same. But,
I'm obviously a Krix fanatic at the moment and Krix fan, but I was a Klipsch fan and I own Klipsch speakers. Obviously, I've made the transition over to Krix, which is an awesome Australian brand. You haven't been able to hear yet, but hopefully if you come over for a visit, you'll get to hear what all the fuss is about. Not to deride Klipsch at all. I mean, I think any speaker can be made to sound good.
It's just different strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Funny note, and a lot of people probably don't know, but I was trying to force you to buy some of these Klipsch speakers back when we first started meeting. And it just ended up not working out because of all the taxes and import fees and everything.
Yeah.
Shipping between it was not worth it at all to you. But man, I was insistent. I talked to 3 or 4 different shipping companies to try to find out how to get them to you, and it just didn't work out. But it ended up being better overall, I think.
Well,
but
that's how we became good friends. I remember it was because of your
little baby Klipsch speakers. And you had your little baby beard at the same time, so now the longer your beard's gotten, the bigger your speakers have gotten, I think.
It's not so baby now.
I think it happens to... Yeah,
well, hey,
it's not even in frame on my screen.
Look at your beard, buddy. Your beard. You grew a beard at the same time I
pretty
grew
long.
mine.
It's a little scraggly, I think. Kind of looks shiny, though. That's kind of cool. The silver makes it sparkle in the light, I think, so.
Let's talk about what the experience is like in your room, because something that people want to find out is what's it like to actually sit in your room, sit in your chair and just watch the screen. What's a movie, say like John Wick, what is that like, you know, as an experience in your room?
Intense is a good word in a great way. It just captivates you from, man, actually I started up John Wick 4 just the other day, watched the first 2 minutes, and it made me almost jump out of my seat. And then of course I need to go back and watch that again, but still my favorite demo scene is going to be John Wick 2 running around through the catacombs. Just everything about the room comes to life at this point, though. I don't think I talked about the acoustic treatment prior, so one of the iterations of the room was when I added all the acoustic paneling. It's some point during COVID, I think. That's when I started all that, and I've since actually added ceiling height panels as well. But the room is very, very quiet. There's no reverberation, there's no echoes at this point, so everything that's happening on screen, you hear all the sensational everything going on. John Wick has always been one of my favorite, I guess we'll call it an anthology. It's not a trilogy, I guess, at this point, right? So it's been just awesome movies. I love it because the entire series gets kicked off because of his dog, right? No spoilers if you guys haven't seen it, but shame on you if you've not.
It's 10 years old.
And you guys have seen, hopefully my little pup, he'll join me shortly, but he'll join me when I watch it. So I mentioned earlier that reference I think is kind of terrible. I think it's overrated. Everybody wants to get reference levels in their theater, but I don't think the people who have not heard reference realize how stinking loud it is. So the only scene that I've ever cranked a reference in this setup was John Wick 2, Catacombs, and I said, never again. Not worth it. It was just painful.
Yeah.
It's just loud and sounded awesome. Don't get me wrong. Everything sounded great, but it's not an enjoyable experience when you're sitting there kind of cringing.
It's great for demos. Like if you've got friends over and you want to sort of crank out a demo or two, it's nice. But to watch a movie, you have to watch it at, you know, a level that's not uncomfortable.
Yeah, like -10 or -15 is kind of where I find the sweet spot these days.
Yep. So let's move on to the next question, which is, let's talk a little bit about the actual room design, because a lot of people found your room quite unique. You didn't go the traditional black on black on black on black.
Mm-hmm.
You sort of went into a more wife-friendly and a more like open and light room, but it still really does look like a dedicated home theater. So why don't you go over some of the choices you made, including the chairs, the paint, the curtains, and the carpet?
Yep, so a big part of what we did in this room was we wanted to make it match the rest of the entire, we wanted to make it match the rest of the basement. So part of that is we went and we found general color palettes that we enjoyed, which was mostly blues, matched the existing carpet, had a nice light feel to it. Found something that looked awesome. Again, I didn't want typical home theater black in the room, which I know that's probably best ideal for everybody. But again, I didn't want that. Blue's been a favorite color of mine for years. I think it looks awesome in here. So we kind of designed the entire room and the colors around that. So the nice blue walls, the carpet that we bought for the most recent upgrades last year, the carpet was designed to match the walls. The curtains that we bought over here match everything. And then of course these beautiful seats that I'm sitting in that you surprised me with. So those even match everything as well. So it's kind of grays, blues, and blacks is kind of the color theme in here. Ended up being great. The light reflections is very, very minimal with the nice matte paint that we put down. So we were very careful. Again, since we were spending money on the redesign, we wanted everything to kind of be pretty and match. And of course I got my LifeX lights so I can make different themes within the room. I can put those on purple and it makes the walls look black anyway. So it's, if I want that experience of a deep dark black room, I can handle all that too. So again, wanted something different, and overall the comments, either people really love it, hey, that's a cool color, what's the cool color? Or people are like, you should have painted it black, reflections suck. So it's very polarizing apparently in our community, but mostly people have been pretty nice about it and seem to enjoy it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it looks awesome, and that's the most important part of it, right? So,
oh, totally. I mean, the fact that it just looks like such a nice room to chill out in, and the fact that, as I was saying, your videos...
It is. You should come sit here with me.
Oh, man. Your video, like, I'm just looking at the stats of it now. It's had 478,329 views. And it's just funny because at...
It's wild.
Like, day 164, somehow the algorithm just got triggered. I mean, it was already at 200,000 views at this point, and it just spiked up to an extra 100,000 views to 300,000 views within another 20 days, and then it's just kept growing and growing and growing ever since. So we're sitting at something like, 478,000 views, which is incredible, and it's still getting a lot of daily views. And I think the way YouTube works, if people didn't like your room and they weren't responding well to the video, there's no way that you would have had these views. I mean, your one video has netted me almost 2,000 subscribers and 23,000 watch hours.
Hey.
Which is huge. Like, if you work that out, it's just a colossal amount of eyeballs on your room. So I know a lot of people have been inspired by that, and your journey has inspired a lot of people, and that's why we're making this video. So that leads me to my next question, which is, what do you think you nailed in this room? Like, as in, obviously you're very happy with the whole result. What are some of the things that you think you really nailed? Like, you say, yep, I got that 100% spot on.
I think the, just mentioned it before, so I think the color palette, I think it worked out perfectly as far as the color of this, even the speakers themselves, the woofers and everything match. Looks incredible. And closing the room to actually pressurize it worked out perfect. I wasn't sure actually before I spent all the money doing it. I wasn't really sure if it was going to work. Kind of like you and I talked many times. I wasn't sure about if the Atmos heights were going to actually make any benefit to the theater. And of course you were right, as always, right? He said, just do it, shut up and do it. So adding the back wall, really think I nailed that actually, and closing the room and pressurizing it, getting all the color right. Subwoofer selection, I think, ended up being perfect. Buddy Eric talked to me multiple times about talking about getting these in here versus the SVS. So I think I nailed that as well. And I love the room. I think I nailed everything, if I'm being honest. I mean, I can pick out some things I would do a little different if I could redesign the room, but
well,
I think it all came together pretty magically, man, if I'm being honest.
Interestingly enough, that's the next question. What would you have done differently?
Well, yeah, so that's kind of a loaded question, right? So there's always some things we all want to do different. So ideally, I wish this would be a construction thing, nothing basically without building a new home. something I couldn't change is ceiling height is definitely an issue in this home theater. And it's all about compromises, right? Every home theater has a compromise. You talk about that in many of your videos. You kind of got to work with what you got and get the best out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So ceiling height is very much an issue in this room. I think it's just over 7 foot tall. It's like 7'2" in the highest part of the ceiling, and there's a cutout in the middle section that presents some issues as far as, man, getting this door in was a huge issue. So if I was redesigning the room, adding, another 6 inches, that would be a huge thing. Not rushing into purchasing decisions would be another one. I mentioned that I've bought 2 projectors in the last 6-8 months. So doing some additional research, taking time to actually figure out what I want for the room and not rushing into a purchase. That is something I would do differently as well. Learning how to use power tools better would be something I would learn how to do so I could hang things properly and level them. That would be something I would do differently. Something else in the room, I'd probably do a different screen in the room. My Silvet Ticket screen's pretty awesome, but I should have done a little more research and found something a little higher end. The bezel on this sucker is like 4 inches, which doesn't look bad. A lot of people like that, but I like a tight little thin bezel. Looks so much more professional in my opinion. These subwoofers up front are huge, as you guys have probably seen in the other tour videos. So they block about most of the bezel, so that wasn't planned out great. But they ended up fitting, and I made it work. I had about 1 inch of tolerance, otherwise they would have blocked the screen. So, something I would fix. I wouldn't necessarily do it different. I would like to add some more lighting. LightFix is awesome. I like doing some of the lighting effects. It's just there's not enough light in the room when I need the light, right? So when we're watching movies, who cares? It's dark. But when I need to come in here and do stuff like this, I'd actually like to add some additional lighting in here as well. So, having
discussed all of that, do you have any upgrade plans for the future?
As long as my wife's not watching this video, we'll see if we can. No, actually, there's not a lot of upgrades I actually really want to do. I mentioned the screen just a minute ago, so at some point I might want to upgrade that. I've gone back and forth on going like a scope screen versus 16:9, but I'm just keeping 16:9. It's better for what I watch, but I would like to go to maybe something higher end for that.
Like a Screen Innovations or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Something higher end that gives me some better performance. And now that I have a killer projector, I want to make sure there's a screen that matches it, instead of my $400 screen I got off Amazon. It does a great job. I've spent money on a lot of these other items. I feel like the screen would probably be something I should upgrade next. Outside of that hardware, I don't really have room to go to separate amplifiers right now. I have basically a little cabinet over here behind me where everything sits. There's not a lot of room, so I'm super happy with the performance that the DENON gives me right now. No issues with that. So the only other thing I might do some upgrades on would be a video processor. So I've been nudging you about getting that video out here for about 6 months, it seems. But I'd actually like to try to implement that to see if I can get, again, the most performance out of everything that I have. So, because I guess there's an issue, I guess the projectors natively don't support Dolby Vision, right? So there's some additional hardware and some magic that you got to do behind the scenes to get that to perform properly. And
yeah, there is like a HD Fury is what I use, a VR room, and it just unlocks the device basically to be able to push the Dolby Vision metadata. And of course, the projector still isn't interpreting Dolby Vision. It doesn't have the ability to do that, but the VR room in between uses the LLDV or low latency Dolby Vision and will actually convert that into it's still an SDR signal, but it pushes it to the projector and then it sends a flag with the signal, which will activate HDR on your projector. And the results are pretty spectacular, especially with the JVC. The MP5 with the lamp, I find it gives such a juicy, I call it juicy because it's the only way to describe it. It gives such a really nice pop over HDR. And yes, we say HDR, not HDR.
Yeah,
I know
we'll debate that until the day we die.
I know. But yeah, it's something that I'll plan on doing in a video very soon to show how I've got my setup, which hopefully will come out very soon. So thanks for answering that. Now, how are you enjoying the room? Like, do you feel that it was worth it at the end of the day doing this, or do you feel that maybe you got sort of goaded into it a little bit by the community that you're part of?
Yeah, absolutely worth it. Of course, there is some goading, and everybody, we all try to force upgrades on each other, but we do it because we know, A, we love them, right? They're our friends. And 2, we know they're really going to enjoy what they're doing to get out of the room. So it's pretty amazing to see the transition of this room. It's been over 7 years, actually, I guess, since we've been in this home. So it's pretty incredible to see what all I've learned, what we've done, the group and community of friends that I've made. That alone makes it worth it, right? I mean, outside of outside of, hey, I got this cool room I can come and sit in and watch a movie. Basically never go to the movie theater anymore other than IMAX movies, just because you can't really recreate IMAX at home. But outside of that, I mean, absolutely, it's worth everything that I've done, the time, sweat, blood when I drilled through my finger. So sweat, blood, and tears, and everything that went into the room. Yeah, it's been very much worth it. Anybody that's looking into it, anybody that has any questions about it, start small, you know. We talked about it here during this interview. It's a process, right? So start small, start with what your budget allows, and go from there. You know, there's always upgrades that you can do, always something new that you're going to learn, and then stay off Discord if you don't want to spend more money, because everybody's going to try to encourage you to do more upgrades. I say that in a loving way. Love all you guys. Yeah.
So now that we're at the pointy end of the interview, why don't you tell us how much the room cost in terms of, just give us a sort of rough idea of the costs, if you don't mind. That I think a lot of people get some benefit from that.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to ask that as well in the videos. Hey, what kind of money did you spend? How'd you do it? Kind of thing. So again, I mentioned earlier, a lot of what home theater is about, it's about upgrade process, right? A lot of the gear that we buy can be reused. You can resell it. So very careful about when I upgraded, what I could sell as part of the process as well. And you're very well. You've upgraded many times. You sell new gear, buy new gear, right? That's part of it. Ended up running some numbers. That was around $6,000. So that included my original subwoofers that I'm still in use today. My PB2000s are in the back. That was the original in-wall Klipsch speakers that I bought. I think they were the 5800 series. Bought those, and that was my Sony that I used for about 6 years. So got a lot of value out of everything on that. 2 of the 3 things I purchased out of that are still in use now in my room. So that was about $6,000. Phase 2 was when I did some upgrades to the in-wall speakers. So the Klipsch THX Ultra 2s that I have currently. And I should mention, so as part of this conversation too, is most of what I did when I was buying the big ticket items, if you shop around and if you're patient with it, you can find great deals and everything. So pretty much none of the speakers that I purchased in my room I paid full retail value for. You find stuff on eBay, you find ways to trade with people online, whatever it might be. So I was fortunate when I bought all the THX Ultras, I didn't pay full retail price on any of them, which was awesome because I probably couldn't have afforded it otherwise. Found a great deal on those. So that was kind of phase 1.5, getting those speakers. And that's when I bought my screen as well. So instead of having the ugly painted wall, I put up the nice screen that I have now. So with the speakers and everything that I got for that phase 1.5, that was about $4,000. Biggest phase, the most recent one, was the construction. So the nice thing about it is because I could not find a contractor because COVID destroyed everything. So the only way I was able to actually get the room done was to work with one of my friends. So we did all of the in-wall construction. We built the wall behind us. We framed the door. We did all the drywall work. The only work we didn't do ourselves is I paid somebody to do the painting. Neither one of us knew how to paint or cared to do it, but everything else we did. The drywall, we ran electrical down to the ground. So we could get power into the middle of the room for the seats. So saved thousands and thousands of dollars by doing that. And again, all the equipment I bought, I sold some of the stuff from the earlier phase. I mentioned earlier that I bought the wrong speakers previously. So I was able to sell some of those and incorporate the new stuff into this room. So without going line by line here, basically I got new speakers, new subwoofers, all of the wall construction, the framing. So when I bought my Zadu, got all the equipment, I bought my Synology NAS that I need for everything. By far, again, it was the biggest upgrade that I had done to the room. And that quick upgrade, I ran a list on that. That ran about $13,000. So by far, that was about the combined cost of the previous 2 phases. And then since then, the only things I've done is I mentioned again buying 2 projectors, unfortunately. But the cool thing is I actually met a Discord member. I went online to sell my Epson LS12000. Had about 6 months of use on it before I got the upgrade bug for the JVC. Ended up listing it. Some guy messaged me within a couple of hours. Turns out he was a Discord member. So he's actually in the process of getting his room set up now. And I was able to recoup almost the entire cost of that. Found a great deal on the JVC MP5 that I wanted. So it wasn't a complete wash. So with the projector, with the Synology upgrades and the projector upgrades, that was about $8,000. So all in all, about $30,000 all in over 7 years, which sounds like an incredible amount of money. But if you figure that over 7 years and get the upgrades when you can afford it, when you can budget for it, and again, sell the gear, find good deals on things. It's part of the upgrades that we left out. So would have been a huge portion of the budget that I probably wouldn't have been able to afford. So I think as you referred to them in one of my videos was my, what do you call them, the ugly brown loungers, or the beautiful brown loungers or something I had. Yeah, they were kind of ugly. They served their point. So a big part of what I was able to do in the room and bring it all together was when he got me these seats. So I think we looked up the value of these before we recorded. I think it's $4,200 US for these 3 seats. So that was money I was able to have in my budget to actually get a Denon or to upgrade to the Epson previously, or the JVC. That freed up a ton of cash to actually be able to finish off the room. Otherwise we've been waiting for, a couple more years, and I would have not had the money to actually finish the room off here. So finish the room, right?
Yep.
We're never finished, of course, but
although
I'm getting pretty close, actually, I think. So I'm getting pretty close. There's not a lot more I can do to this stinking room, I think. So
yeah, no, you've done an incredible job. I mean, the room looks amazing as it is. Matt, I just want to say thanks for the friendship. Thanks for the last 3 years and of support of my channel. And also for spending your time here today, just peeling back the curtain a little bit on what goes on in this hobby, because a lot of people that want to get into this, they just look at it and go, how do I get from nothing to an end result? And like myself, making so many mistakes along the way, and then obviously trying to help people and seeing people not make the mistakes because of my videos. That was one of the coolest things. And of course, witnessing everyone's journey on the Discord server. I'll have links down in the description if you're interested. So again, Matt, thanks for being part of this. Thanks for being part of the channel. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video and you found it helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more home theater content. I have plenty coming, but that's it for this one. You'll catch me in the next one. Bye for now. You can say bye for now too.
Bye for now.
Yeah, you can.
Oh man, I missed my cue. Damn it.
No, just say it. It's fine.
Bye for now.